Let's return now to reaction to the budget. Joining me is the member for Warringah Independent, Zali Steggall. Thanks for your time. You're really critical of a government blind spot here when it comes to funding on the violence against women crisis. What's your read as to what's gone on here?
Well, my concern is we've seen a horrendous rise in fatalities from male violence, let's calling it what it is, in relation to women. Now, the government called a national cabinet, the Prime Minister expressed great concern and indicated it's a crisis. We know this crisis is costing about 1 to 2% of GDP, so $50 billion a year, and yet our response is not commensurate with that problem. So we need to change laws and we need to do the culture change, and everyone talks about that. That is the long-term piece. I agree. But we have immediate levers that we can pull now, and that is in relation to fully increasing funding to legal aid services and women's legal services. They had a very specific ask for the budget. They got no increase in funding. They are not able to adequately defend, protect and advise women in our current system. Frontline services need an injection of fund. They are turning women away, on average, about 10 a week from most services, if not more. They need more funding now to keep women safe now. I don't disagree with the long-term piece of the government, but we need to see urgent levers pulled now, and we didn't see that.
Well, this is in line with the motion. You sought leave to move this motion in the House of Representatives, articulating everything you've just said to me. What's been the reaction from the government? Are they listening on this?
They are listening, and none of this is new. A lot of this was pre-budget submissions. We raised it on Tuesday before the budget. I've written to the Attorney-General and the Prime Minister about this on a number of occasions.
They knew it was coming.
They know this is happening. Obviously, there has been a long-standing bipartisanship in the House that everyone is in agreement that this is a problem and that we all feel bad and everyone wants to do better on women's safety. And so I guess the reluctance is in relation to the issue in the House is no one being pushed to having to vote against something that would then appear to, break that kind of long-standing bipartisanship. But with respect, we are at that point of crisis. Yeah. It is step up, increase that response.
And as you've said, it's not like while there might be other avenues and inquiries and whatever else to look at what can be done on culture change, educating boys how to treat women and so on. But things like legal aid, you need that now in the face of a crisis.
Absolutely. And that was the disappointing, where I was very frustrated and angry from the National Cabinet meeting that occurred, was there was no immediate actions. What we know is the why of violence against women is a long-term piece. It's culture change, it's alcohol, it's gambling, it's pornography. It's a lot of things. Yeah. But the women's safe now is ensuring if our laws are inadequate, let's review them. But at least in engaging with the laws now, make sure we have access to legal aid, women's legal services.
Can you leverage this?
Look, having discussions with the Minister, with the government. They are, and I do appreciate, they are genuinely committed to trying to change this. But we are still not seeing the level of urgency and crisis that it requires. I asked the Prime Minister in question time on Tuesday. In New South Wales, 2 young men lost their life. We saw immediate introduction of one-punch attack law. Terrorism, we jail people on apprehended risk of harm. We have hundreds of women being killed and we have not seen substantial sentencing law changes or substantial increase to frontline and legal service funding.
A motion was moved in the Senate. The government supported the opposition motion, criticising the phrase from the river to the sea, calling for a debate in the inside and outside of the Senate that doesn't lead to divisiveness, and essentially responding to the comments made by Senator Fatima Payman, where she accused Israel of genocide and then used that chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. So it was a unified condemnation and criticism of that. Senator Payman wasn't in the Senate. The Greens voted against the motion. The government and opposition voted together. What's your assessment of the response? And how this feeds into our broader debate and nation in terms of our the fabric of our country, being such a multicultural nation. There's a lot of people with different interests here. What's your read on it?
Oh, absolutely, and we were, in fact, during one of our divisions discussing, and I've signed on to a letter in relation to concerns of anti-Semitism on university campuses and calling for that to be reviewed, and with the member for Wentworth, with Allegra Spender, and we were discussing it with Julian Lisa as well. I think it's really important that we not conflate. Freedom of speech is one thing, which I strongly support. But it is not a freedom to hate speech, and it is not a freedom for violence and calling for violence. And I think that is the distinction, and that is why it's important to take a stand when it goes too far, when that speech, chants of that nature are absolutely wrong and need to be called out. And so I think we need to be very mindful of that social cohesion, and I think that motion in the Senate was important.
Zali Steggall, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you.